ovarian cancer makes energy. So basically how our cells are able to take what we eat and convert that and burn it into energy so it can survive. So that's some of the stuff that I do. I run a bunch of different kinds of experiments. I work with cells, so I do a lot of cell culture. I also have some animals that I work with. And then I also am a professor, so I teach at Virginia Tech also. So yeah, Katie, do you have anything you want me to like specifically cover? I can go over
No,
anything.
I thought that actually, I thought you did nutrition research. I didn't realize
No,
that
I
with
do
ovarian
nutrition
cancer.
technically.
So yeah, just tell us about your research and like what you do with your research for the nutrition part and then ovarian cancer too. So both of those. And then
Yeah,
what do you
yeah.
teach? Because I didn't know that you were actually teaching at Tech too.
Yeah.
So cool stuff.
Yeah, so yes, I'm technically in a nutrition department. I'm in the Department of Human Nutrition, Foods, and Exercise. So the way that ovarian cancer and nutrition kind of go hand in hand is I look at how what we eat, so like a high-fat diet, affects how ovarian cancer makes energy. So does it help it make energy? Does it, do anything bad to it? Does it actually help it survive? Like what kind of influences that? So I also do some stuff. We have some mice that we've been feeding a high-fat diet so we can see how that interacts. And then I teach a class called health counseling, which is helping other health professionals like doctors or physical therapists or occupational therapists, how they counsel people and how they actually help people in the clinic, that kind of thing.
So what have you found out from your experiment with your mice? Like does fat affect that or not affect that?
So we're actually still in the midst of it. So I don't know yet, but I am hoping that I will know before I graduate. That's what I'm trying to figure out for my PhD is how obesity and high fat diet and all of those kind of things interact with ovarian cancer. So what I've been doing so far is I've actually been looking at how cells make energy as like cancer gets worse. So as it progresses, like how that changes over time. I use a machine that can measure like how the cells are breathing. So it measures how much oxygen they're taking in. And that gives me an idea of how much energy they're moving through the mitochondria, the powerhouse of the cell, so that then we can kind of say like, oh, well, they're very good at making energy, or oh, they're not very good at making energy.
Oh, so this relates to my 7th graders who are currently in the room because they know about cell respiration and how it
Yeah.
works. 6th grade doesn't know about that yet, which is most of these people.
Yeah.
But yeah, so very cool. So you can keep talking about that.
Yeah. Oh, okay, never mind. I was like, oh, is there a chat? Sorry.
Well, there's a period, but anyway.
Yeah, so the experiments that I run, I'm able to give my cells like a certain amount of sugar, so glucose. And so I'm able to measure how they respond to that when I do things to their mitochondria. So basically what I can do is I can shut down the complexes of the mitochondria. I can poke holes in them and kind of make them respire as much as they possibly can. So then I can see like, are they able to really like when you're running and so like you start breathing very heavily, like you ramping up how you're breathing, cells kind of do that too, so that like if they can ramp up really high and they can go really high, then I can say they're pretty flexible and they can actually increase their respiration if they want to. But a lot of cancer cells don't have a lot of flexibility, so they're kind of like going as fast as they can, no matter what. So that's one thing that I've been looking at. Another
Can it slow the cancer cells down instead?
So actually, cancer cells make energy a little bit differently than our other cells in our body. So most of our other cells like to use our mitochondria to make energy with. It's the most efficient. You can make the most energy with the mitochondria. That's why it's called the powerhouse of the cell, right? But with cancer cells, they actually don't use the mitochondria as much. They actually use a different energy system. So I don't know if you know glycolysis. I don't know how hardcore you get into your energy system, but it's kind of like the first step of kind of the pathway to get to using the mitochondria. So they use a different energy system, which is less efficient and slower, but that energy system is able to help them make more like building blocks so that they can keep growing. So that's one difference between how cancer makes energy versus how like any other cell in our body makes energy.
So, but they still both use sugar?
Yeah.
Same process? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So then, I guess, I don't know. I don't want to get into too many details because right now I'm not sure if you've went completely over their heads or not.
I know. Yeah, that's what I
Um,
was afraid of.
but is there anything that you have that you can show us that you're currently working on, or anything of that
Let's
nature?
let me see if I can take you around. So
Okay.
one of my lab mate Joe is over here. He is running an experiment, so I will show you.
Oh, tell us too about, because they're very involved
This
in the
is
idea
Joe.
of, hi Joe,
Hi.
that experiments are like one and done in 30 minutes. So tell us too about like how
Yes.
that's not a real world environment.
Yes. So let me actually get a glove on real quick and I'll show you something. Sorry, I'm going to put you down for just a second. We got to be sterile. We can't touch anything. So one of the things that Joe is working on has to do with this. You see this plate right here? This like plastic thing? So this is what I use to run my experiments on my cells to see how they're like using oxygen. I ran those earlier this month. Those took 3 days to run. And now we're doing another experiment on them so we can see how many cells were actually in the dish. So that's a time frame of about like, took 3 days to run them. And now it's like later this month and we're doing this part. So experiments definitely don't take just 30 minutes. I know that that's a lot of times what we can do in school because that's about all the time we have, right? But with science in the lab, it takes a lot longer than that. So it can take upwards of months to years to be able to do a certain experiment to say like, we can actually say something about what we know about our cells. So it can take a long time actually.
Okay. Do you have any, let's see, I'm trying to think of exciting things in a lab that they might
Yeah.
like. Do you have an autoclave there? Do you have a I can't think of the words because I've been out of college for too long. Like do you have any bacteria growing in there? Do you like that they can see? Do you have anything like do you have a centrifuge or
Yeah. I have all the cool things. Let me show you.
okay, show us some cool things.
Okay, so you all have probably seen a microscope, right? Have you all seen a microscope? Yeah, I see some nods. Okay, so probably you're probably more familiar with like this kind of microscope, right? So that's about like what you've seen before, right?
Yeah.
So it's pretty small. But let me show you our big microscope. Just taking you all over the lab today. Our lab is very large also. This is how large it goes. There's many labs in here. But this is our big microscope. So it's under this cover. So he's really big. I don't know if you can tell how big he is, but here's my hand close to him. So he's a very big microscope.
Yes,
so this is the microscope that we actually use to look inside the cells. So the smaller microscopes are really good for just looking at the cells, but with this, we can actually look inside them and see what's inside them. And those lenses right there can get really, really, really close to the microscope slide. And they're also really expensive. Let me see about some other cool things I can show you. I'm going to take you into our cell culture room so you can see that.
So while she's walking, think of some questions that you might have for her, or anything that you might want to like say or ask. Be appropriate.
Hi, sorry, I'm just showing. I'm showing some students our tissue culture room. This is Dolly and gosh, oh my God, Alex. God, sorry, it's been a day. Okay, this is our incubator. So this is what we keep our cells in. So I'll show you. We got a lot of cells in here. So we keep them in these little plastic dishes. You see that, like pink stuff? So that's the media. So it's pink because it actually can tell us what the pH is. So
can
if
you
the
define
pH
for them what media is, because
yeah, it's kind of like I guess kind of like food, like we would have food for ourselves, like soup, I guess is a good like analogy for it. But it basically has everything in it that the cells need to stay alive. So it feeds them, it keeps them happy, it helps them grow. So they're not mad at us. So that media keeps them alive and keeps them happy and feeds them. And then we have what Dolly and Alex are working in is called a tissue culture hood. And basically what it does, you see that there's this glass right here. So it protects them and also keeps the cells so that they don't get any bacteria in them or any like dust or any kind of thing that would not make them happy. And then here's one of the centrifuges we have. So we can turn it on and open it. Look inside. So we can put cells in there in tubes and spin them so that they move down to the bottom of the tube and we can do stuff with them.
So guys, think about a centrifuge just kind of being like a super, super high powered like washing machine or something.
Yeah.
It separates out layers. So you know how we did our density experiment with the cans and the fish tank? So it helps to make things that are more dense, like go down instead.
Yeah, exactly. And here is another centrifuge. It's a big boy. So this one is much bigger than the other one. So we can put whole like little plates in there. So like about this size. So we can put the whole thing in there instead of just a little tube of cells. Let's see, what other cool things do we have in here? Da, da, da. Have you all learned about pH?
Yes and
Little
no.
bit.
They know, they don't really think of it as pH. Like they're going to know more if you say like acid or bases.
Okay, yeah.
That helps them more.
Okay, solid. Yeah, so did you all notice when I showed you the cell dish that the liquid inside was pink? So it's pink because it tells us if that media has changed to acid or base. So if it becomes more like an acid, it changes color. So we know that we have to change the media so we can make it pink again. Instead of having it like, it turns orange a little bit if you let it become an acid, so.
Well, very cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, guys. So I'm going to unmute you. Be respectful and responsible. But if you have any questions for her or anything that you'd like to say, then this is your time.
I guess I'm getting hacked. The reason
Thank God you unmuted us.
Okay. Anybody have anything that they want to add?
I have a question.
All right, Sage.
So when did you start being a scientist? I don't know how to word it, but
Yeah. So I started being a scientist when I graduated from high school. I went to college with Mrs. Thomas, and we were at a college called Emory and Henry College, and so that's when I studied biology.
That's where Miss Thomas went.
Yeah, exactly. So I was there and I studied biology there, and then I came to Virginia Tech and started doing science here also. So it's been a while, actually, like 6 years.
Okay, how did you decide that you wanted to go into like nutrition / like cancer research with regards to nutrition?
Yeah, so I'll be honest, it's kind of by accident. So a lot of people always ask you the question, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? So has anybody ever had that question asked? I still ask myself.
No, I'm dumb.
But what I decided I wanted to do nutrition because I was interested in it, but I switched from biology to nutrition, and then I wanted to combine them so that I could study how nutrition and biology interact.
Okay, very cool. Makes sense. Anybody else have any questions?
I have a question.
Okay, Nadia.
I have a question. What is your favorite part of being a scientist?
Ooh, my favorite part of being a scientist. I would say my favorite part is getting to discover really cool new things, like things that we don't know yet, and then being able to like run my experiments and do everything and then like discover something. Even if it's really small, it's kind of cool to be able to say like, Hey, I found that out. That's pretty cool.
So did you guys get a look in this today to see that like science is not like what we actually do in the classroom? A lot of times it's actually bigger picture a lot of times. And the
No.
fact that really stuff.
Yeah.
And the fact that like
I'm being serious.
not
No.
just like the 30-minute things that we do, it's actually like a lot of the things that we talk about all combined into one. So like she was talking about pH plus cells plus cell respiration, all affecting just that one experiment that she did, which I know a lot of you sixth graders don't know exactly what that is yet. But do you see how it all the information that you take, even though it's just tiny little bits just combined together into one thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anybody else have any questions before we let her go and get back to her research since her lab might be closing soon?
Nope.
Thank you very much.
I have a question.
Oh, okay. Who had a question? Abby?
That's okay.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what was one of the coolest things that you figured out about like one of the coolest things you've researched on and figured out?
Yeah, so I think one of the coolest things is like, can you imagine how small a cell is? It's very small, right? We can't see them usually with just our eyes. We have to use a microscope. So one of the coolest things I have found is being able to take something so small and actually be able to measure how it's like breathing. So something like itty bitty bitty bitty, and we can actually see like how much like it's like using oxygen. So that's one of the coolest things that I've seen.
Oh, that's cool.
That's very cool. All right. Anybody else have any more questions? Oh, Hayden, you're not unmute yourself.
Hayden's mute. Hayden's mute because his phone was ringing nonstop.
Hayden.
Hey, he's muted.
Okay.
He's just ignoring us.
I guess he doesn't have a question then. All right. So, anyways, you do have a question? Well, Hayden,
No.
unmute yourself because you have the ability to do that, and I'm having a hard time finding you. You're gonna have to unmute yourself. I can't do it for you.
Hayden's finally.
Okay.
Hayden says his phone has a ring lights on.
All right, Hayden, what's your question?
I didn't have one. I just raised my hand because you need to unmute me.
Oh, well, I couldn't unmute you. It wasn't letting me. All right. Anyways, Stephanie, thank you so much for coming today, and we really appreciate it a whole lot. Guys, can you say thank you?
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
We loved it. Thank you.
Bye.
Wow.
All right, 6th grade and 7th grade, because I think you're both here now, because there's a lot of you, because I can't see you all on one screen. Okay, Sage, what's up? You got your hand raised. I unmuted all of you. It says you're unmuted.
You finally unmuted.
All right, there we go.
Thank you.
At the bottom of the screen, if
That's
you're on
all was my
mobile, you can set it, and it'll say mute and unmute. It'll give you options.
Yes, it will. All right, Sage, what's up? You gotta unmute yourself again.
Hey, you're supposed to be helping with secret. Mommy said you have to.
Mother, we
Hey,
don't like your nose.
So I'm sad because I didn't get to tell her thank you because I was still muted and it wouldn't work.
Yeah. Same thing with me.
Yeah, I was
Okay.
muted.
Well, I will make sure I send her a message that says that you're very